All right, well, let's jump right into it today. You know, I'm starting to understand the evangelical, the big Eva sort of, conference speaking pastor, blogger, the impulse to whine and complain like a little girl about how hard their job is. Oh, it's so hard to be me. I have to deal with controversies, and I have to make decisions, and I have to respond to my emails. Like, it's so hard to be me. I'm sure maybe I shouldn't make fun of that, because I was thinking just earlier today, it's pretty hard to be a YouTuber too. Yeah, I mean, like, how much criticism I have to field on a daily basis? It's very hard to be a YouTuber. I talk a lot, and people are always trying to, tell me that I'm saying things that I'm not saying. But you know what? I gotta own that, right? I gotta be a man. I can act like a man myself, Although, I don't know. Karen Swallow Pryor said I'm not allowed to talk about that. That was a good one. Did you guys watch John Harris's video when he talked about Karen Swallow Pryor? She retweeted that video, that selfie video of President Zelensky, where he's like, "We're still here. We are not going anywhere. You don't fight us." Stuff like that. And she's like, "I bet he doesn't tweet about manliness." And it's like, it's a selfie video. That's what he's doing. John has a sharp wit. He noticed that right away. But yeah, it's just so ridiculous. It's like, you're telling me he doesn't do the thing he's literally doing as you're sharing it. But what's so interesting about Zelensky, and somebody sent me this on Twitter, and then I saw it on Gab as well. Torba shared it. And I've decided not to share it because it's completely disgusting. I did retweet it on Twitter. No take backsies, you know what I mean? But it's essentially the president of Ukraine dressed in leather, high heels, and gyrating, moving his body in a very suggestive fashion. He's licking, sticking his tongue out in a very suggestive. This is not like the Tom Brady thing, guys. Like, you remember we got in the whole controversy when I said the Tom Brady commercial was a little gay, and everyone disagreed with me. Well, not everyone. A lot of people agreed with that, the Subway commercial. It's not like that. This is literally him in high heels, dancing like a stripper. And God has the person who shared it with me was like, God has a sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like, this is the man that now is all of the evangelical leaders are all, almost praising and worshiping the ground this guy walks on, as if he is courage and righteousness and holiness personified. He's the lion. It's almost blasphemous how much they're elevating this man. This guy's he's healing our broken hearts. When Ray Ortlund says that his heart is so broken, it's like, it reminds me of in Star Wars, where what's her face, Queen Amidala, she's like, "Anakin, you're breaking my heart." And it's like, man, like, grow up, dude. Like, your heart is broken because of President Trump. I mean, what's wrong with you? Look, someone on Twitter is like, I've never even heard any man use that term, even in a situation where his heart could be broken, like, and stuff like that. Like, even like your wife leaves you, your girlfriend breaks up with you, somebody dies. Like, those are situations where a man can grieve and stuff like that. But even in those situations, it's like, it's just weird. It's a weird turn of phrase for a man. And to think it's about President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump broke Ray Ortlund's little heart. But now, don't worry, he's got his new god, and his new god is he dresses in drag like a stripper, with a few of his stripper male buddies, dancing and gyrating next to each other, and I don't know, they certainly seem to be touching each other a little bit and licking. And listen, I'm not recommending you go look for it, but it's real. In any case, I wanted to say this. I want to take some responsibility, because maybe I wasn't being clear. Although I think I kind of was being clear, but, people are getting triggered, and I got this email from someone who likes the channel. This is a good guy, but clearly something I said triggered him. He says this: AD, you may want to rethink your comments on Ukraine. Their defense against Russia is absolutely a just war. You listen to Putin and use that as an evidence of what? He lies too. You said it yourself. If you said what you said in the presence of a Ukrainian with family and cities being shelled, and I was also present, I would be embarrassed. You do know critical race theory well, but perhaps not the ethics of war and geopolitics. And when I read that, it broke my heart. Because I'm such an idiot. Anyway, when I read that, my face went downcast for a minute because I thought I was very clear. Like, I don't think Putin's a good guy. He thinks he's got good reasons for invading Ukraine. In the video, I said, regardless of the reasons he thinks he's going to invade Ukraine, he shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. Regardless, and he's just doing a little peacekeeping, the same way that Barack Obama did his peacekeeping back a couple of decades ago or a decade ago, whatever. And, so like we don't really have the moral high ground to be criticizing him because we do the same thing. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying we do the same thing. That's what I'm saying. And so my point is that it's not. And I thought I was clear about this. Like I feel very badly for the people of Ukraine. They're in a war zone, and a lot of them are fleeing. We don't really know exactly why they're fleeing. Some of them clearly are scared of the attack. Some of them probably don't want to be conscripted, which, by the way, is evil. It is evil to conscript males against their will. If they're willing to fight, then fine. That's great, because the entire time I've said that defending your own country is a noble cause. I've supported that. I thought I was clear about that. But allegedly, according to this guy, I haven't been clear on that because he thinks that I'm saying it's not just to defend yourself from an invader. It definitely is. And, the reality is that if you're conscripted into service and you're willing to fight, you should fight. And there's nothing wrong with that. But conscripting people against their will, that's evil. That's the role of a tyrant. That's the role of an evil leader. That's not something God blesses, and they shouldn't do it. It's actually evil. And so, in any case, and then people are saying, "Well, Russia has conscripts too," as if as if I'm pro-Russia and I overlook their evils. No, it's evil for Russians to conscript males as well, just like it would be for the United States to conscript males as against their will as well. So people keep trying to trap me like I'm being inconsistent. I'm really not. I'm saying I don't know if the Ukrainians, I shouldn't say that. I do know that the Ukrainian government is quite corrupt and quite evil in their own right? So just because the Ukrainian government is evil and corrupt does not mean Russia had the right to invade, but let's stop whitewashing Ukraine because they're not innocent. That's all I'm saying. But, I thought I was pretty clear about that. But, and the thing is, like, I want to make that clear, but I think I was already clear because I got a comment from someone. This guy said that he'd be embarrassed if I said the same things that I said on my last video in front of a Ukrainian who's got family and friends being shelled. And here is someone who does have friends and family in Ukraine who are being shelled and are on the front lines and things like that. And this is a comment on the same video. So I think I was clear, but I just want to take ownership. Maybe I could have been clearer, but somehow this person got the message and wasn't triggered. This person says this: "We were missionaries in Ukraine and still own a home there that is reportedly overrun by Russians. Our friends are in basements, food is getting low. Our church there is hunkered down with 300 or so people, believers and unbelievers. Our pastor there is dying of cancer, but refused to evacuate and is there caring for people as they are smack dab in between Russian and Ukrainian forces. God bless that man. People are coming to Christ in that church because of their service to this community. There are shootings of civilians, bombs dropping, tanks everywhere. Our city is surrounded and humanitarian crisis looms. We are devastated and losing sleep because of this, because these are real faces, real names, people we know. Despite this, the sympathy of the world is somewhat weird to me. The puffing up of Zelensky is odd as well. He was not loved before. He was elected with great hope, but the people in the following years began to see he didn't keep his election promises, and even though he even thought he might secretly be a puppet of Russia. Now they are pleasantly surprised, and it's weird to see the adoration of the whole world upon him. He may just be an actor who is playing his part. The people of Ukraine are amazingly brave, and the church there is shining bright, but something about the president does not sit right with me. And this is not the comment, this is my commentary. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that he's a comedian dressing in drag and doing all kinds of, sexually explicit dancing in his spare time. I don't know. Back to the comments. Here we go. I want to believe that he is just that heroic, and sometimes he looks so very tired. Other times he looks oddly carefree. Watch him in the time to come. He is from a family of Holocaust survivors, and I'm guessing that means he's Jewish. He asked Israel to host peace talks, which I find very interesting. It's mind-blowing to see the world's attention on the country we love. I have a dear friend and brother fighting on the front lines in Kiev, but again, something about this just doesn't sit well with me. And that's pretty much exactly what I was saying. It's like, yeah, I'm praying for the Ukrainians because they have a war being fought on their land, and that is horrible. That's horrible. And we want to, support them and things like that. And I know that, the CREC Church has missionaries in Ukraine, and they've got some good kind of reputable places that if you want to give money, you can give money and be sure it's not going to get into the hands of the Ukrainian government, because the reality is I want to make sure that if I'm giving money to the saints in Ukraine and the surrounding areas, that not a dime of it goes to the Ukrainian government, because I don't trust the Ukrainian government. Now, and I hope that's clear. In any case, but this person doesn't seem to be triggered at all by what I said. And so, other commenter, you don't have to be embarrassed for me. You don't have to be embarrassed for yourself. It certainly seems like Ukrainians get it. And I'm not defending Russia, and I'm definitely not defending the Ukrainian government. However, they're the ones being invaded, and they have every right to defend themselves. What they don't have the right to do, is to break God's law in order to defend themselves. People seem to be thinking that if you're desperate, then you can break God's law and conscript men against their will, and I shouldn't be criticizing it. Well, the thing is, I have the same standard no matter what, whether you're Russia or Ukraine, whether you're America or Iran, whether you're poor or rich or strong or weak or, whatever it is, it's the same standard. You don't get a pass. You can't be like, oh, well, God, you didn't know that, people would be in a desperate situation, that they'd have to conscript. Like, you don't get that excuse and all of that. And so, and then, people will regularly say that I'm just a coward, that, I'm not brave, or I'm not a man, and things like that. It's a very weird reaction. I'm commenting on a world situation. I'm a YouTuber. You don't know me. Like, why if I don't go with the narrative, am I automatically a coward? It makes absolutely no sense. But, at the end of the day, I don't think my job I don't think it's that hard to be me. It's not. I like being a YouTuber, and I understand that no matter what I say, no matter how nuanced I am, no matter how clear I think I am being, someone is going to hear what they want to hear. So even now, I've said numerous times in this video that I'm against the Russian invasion. I'm sure Putin is a bad guy. In any case, yeah. So yeah, that's just the bottom line. So people are going to get triggered, and that's it. And this is why I even wanted to comment on this, because there's a lot of talk about World War III and a lot of despair, being dealt out to Americans, and a lot of fear out there. I think I've got a pretty good, I think I got my finger on the pulse of like what normies are feeling right now. And so here's the thing, right? So we have no control over whether or not this is going to be World War III. You have none. You can pray about it and pray for peace, and of course, God's will be done, and it will be done, right? But so you have don't have anxiety about, well, maybe China's going to invade Taiwan and it's going to create a whole situation. What if Iran jumps in and all of that? Like, that could happen. That could very well happen. But you don't have any control over that. Those are people that are having their own rich people squabbles amongst themselves, and, who knows what they're going to do, right? What you can do is prepare for it. There's still time. There's still time to prepare for it. Today is a good day to get started. If there is a large war, the economies of the world will suffer. There is no way for them not to. Joe Biden got on TV the other day and said that he wouldn't allow it to affect the American economy. Joe Biden is lying to you. He has no choice. If all of a sudden, there's war and we're going to war against Russia and China and Iran, there's a whole lot of products that the supply chains potentially could be disrupted and we might not be able to have access to, and things like that. And so now is the time to prepare, right? One of the most important things you can do is get out of debt, especially consumer debt. But I think even these days, as low as the interest rate of mortgages have been, there is a risk associated with carrying a mortgage. If you're in a position to get out of a mortgage or to get out of all of your debt, I would suggest doing that. Because here's the thing: debt makes it easier for people to manipulate you. Right? Debt is how the powers that be control people. They put you in a lot of debt starting from school now. It's so evil. It's so twisted. You start off in, $50,000 of debt, $100,000 of debt. They start you off there. And so you can't, pursue the things you want to do. Now you got to pursue the things that'll pay the most, even whether you want to do it or not. And you're just kind of chained to a desk for a bit in order to make ends meet. And it's a very terrible thing. And then you buy a car, you buy, you get a credit card, you buy a home, and all of these things, like, these are not bad things in themselves, but when you're in debt, now all of a sudden you got to have that paycheck to make ends meet. Debt is the reason why a lot of people who did not want to get the vaccine ended up being manipulated into getting the vaccine. You didn't have to do that, right? There was always a choice. But with no debt, it's a lot harder to dangle that lollipop in front of you and be like, hey, take it. Trust me, it's going to be fine. We'll definitely have a free lunch now. Like, without debt, a lot more options are open to you, and you don't have to, sign on the dotted line that, sodomy and pole dancing as a man and dressing up like a woman is now the heroic thing, right? You're free. When you don't have debt, you're free to actually call it what it is and say, hey, that president of Ukraine certainly seems like, what's the deal? Anyway, so that's the thing. So that's one thing. Stock up on items you're going to need in the next year or so. If you're in a position to do so, don't go into debt to do it, but if you're in a position to do so, stock up on items, because things might be harder to get, because the economy, of course, is going to suffer. Don't listen to Joe Biden. He is incapable of shielding you from the economic turmoil that's associated with war. War destroys resources. War consumes resources. War will definitely change your standard of living. Don't fear it. Prepare for it. And so get yourself ready. Think in your mind. I can't give you financial advice, but think in your mind what kinds of things potentially could happen if we did enter World War III in the next year or so. What would change? What would be harder to get? What would be difficult about your life? And see them coming and make plans now to go ahead and sidestep them. The Bible says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. A wise person sees trouble coming and hides himself, prepares, figures it out how to avoid it. An idiot, a fool, a moron, and there's other names I could call you, sees trouble coming and just keeps going and, eventually runs into it and bad things happen. There's still time. You're not too late. There's still time to prepare. And even if you don't have any money and you can't buy things or get out of debt or something like that, what you can do is make connections, make friends with people that, potentially can help you out, or at least be some kind of moral support or spiritual support is another thing. And this is not an afterthought. I almost treated it as an afterthought, but you need to prepare spiritually for things being very different than they've been. And I would suggest finding a good church, find a church that gets it, that's not, singing the praises of the cross-dressing president as if he's this heroic lion. God has a sense of humor, that's right, but find yourself a pastor who is not being fooled by the propaganda on a daily basis. Look, we're all fooled by it at times, but it's a very different kind of person, like Ray Ortlund, who just goes headlong into it. There's no humility, and if you don't go in with it with him, he says you're not loving your neighbor as yourself. Like, if you have a pastor like Ray Ortlund, run like the Dickens, because that's going to be a spiritually draining place for you to be in the coming years. Find spiritual support, find community, find a group that you can trust and you can rely on if things are tough in the future, because they will be. There's a lot of opportunity ahead of us. There's a lot of places to expand the kingdom of God and all of that. But things are going to change, I think, very drastically. I mean, people keep saying, I haven't seen anything like it. This Ukraine thing, I've seen nothing like it. I've seen a lot of things like it just in the past 2 years, but it's getting worse and worse every time it happens. The propaganda is so powerful. It's trapping so many people. Find yourself a group that you can trust, that knows how to get things done, that are building families, that are building businesses, that are building homesteads, that are building all these kinds of things. Do the work now. It'll pay dividends in the future. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you decide to go find the Zelensky cross-dressing, video that I mentioned, I've warned you, it's completely disgusting. So, say a little prayer beforehand, take a shower afterwards. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.